You likely know that endocrine disruptors and toxins can be harmful to your fertility and early pregnancy, but are you frustrated with the search? Ingredients can be so confusing. Companies don't have to list everything that they use in the product, and marketing can be so confusing. Finally, someone has found a way to make your search easier. Today, we will interview Lanning Ardente, the founder and CEO of Sorette, a company that's making it easier to find safer products. Welcome to the Baby or Bust Fertility Podcast, the podcast with interviews and in-depth discussions on all things reproductive health, created to support anyone curious about infertility, miscarriage, and early pregnancy. I'm your host, Dr. Lora, Shahine, a double board-certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist, and former fertility and IVF patient myself, helping build families for almost 20 years and dedicated to supporting and educating you on your family building journey. I talk to patients every day about lifestyle optimization to improve reproductive health. I answer questions about ways to improve egg quality, sperm parameters, chances of success with fertility treatment, and any ways we can decrease the risk of miscarriage. I discuss the importance of nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, and decreasing exposure to endocrine disruptors or toxins that are found in everyday household products that can impact our reproductive health. At first, it can be so overwhelming to learn this information, especially when you first hear about it. And I really felt this way when I first learned about it, and I was doing deep dive research into writing my books on miscarriage and fertility and creating content to educate. It's a really disturbing topic, but it doesn't have to be. After all the research and learning that I've done, I still can sometimes get confused reading ingredients just like you, but I'm excited to share a solution for your search for everyday, safer products. Welcome to the show, Lanning. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm a fan of the podcast in general, so happy to be on and chat more about Sorette.
Yeah, before we started, we were kind of sharing that we're both podcast lovers and how you can actually get more in depth with topics with podcasts, I think, a little bit more than kind of the little snippets that are on social media. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. You know, I went to medical school so long ago, Lanning. I'm so old. We were not learning about endocrine disruptors or toxins in our products. And it's something that my patients really started asking me about, and I had to teach myself. And there's just a lot of knowledge that sort of needs to get out there. And I think everybody comes to this topic with a different story. And I'm curious, can you share with the listeners a little bit of your story and the inspiration for starting Sorette?
Yes. So my background is in the consumer space. I spent about 10 years on the food and beverage side of CPG in the natural foods kind of category. And while I was there, I worked in-house at a few different brands, and then was most recently at a company where we took a founder's concept and commercialized it, and basically stood up the supply chain and did all of the operational infrastructure and brought it to market, which was really, really kind of cool to see how all of these products are built. And obviously in the natural food sector, there's a lot of these like third-party certifications. So I was really familiar with that process and that customer journey as well, because I'm celiac. So I'm always looking for these call outs on packaging, whether it's certified gluten-free or USDA organic. I have an eye for that just as a consumer myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I before I even got pregnant 4 years ago, I was looking at the prenatal vitamins category, and I was very, very confused on where to even begin choosing, because it was kind of crazy to me that all of these brands could call their product a prenatal vitamin, but they were so different than the next. Like there was no standardization, there was no threshold there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my first little dive into this rabbit hole in the pregnancy motherhood category. And then when I became pregnant, I was breaking out in hormonal acne. I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was about 6 weeks pregnant. I was Googling everything I was using. It was also during COVID, so I was a little bit of a hypochondriac around just like everything health related. And I Googled just a go-to cleanser that I would normally use to combat a breakout. And that's when I stumbled upon all of these ingredients that should be avoided during pregnancy. And I had no idea.
Mhm.
I went to my first prenatal appointment, and they said, make sure you stop drinking or stop smoking cigarettes. But there was never this conversation around, are you using retinol? You should stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was, and I found that on this article, and I immediately started freaking out and having so much anxiety, messaging my doctor, is the
Hmm.
baby going to be okay? And it just felt, as a consumer and just a woman and person in general, very blindsiding.
Yeah.
So again, that was about 4 years ago now. And I've since had another child and gone through this experience twice. And then through this second pregnancy, saw all of my girlfriends kind of going through the same process, at different points in their journey, whether they're trying to conceive or pregnant, and struggling with product selection, and asking me. And I'm not an expert either. So it was, this is what worked for me. This was my research. And so really kind of got the wheels turning about more formally about 2 years ago. And then last summer really started putting pen to paper and putting together thought on how to solve this problem. And that's when I reached out to you
Yeah.
about a year ago now.
And you just launched Sorette, which is amazing. And your story is so common. I too started being more aware of ingredients and products when I became a mom. And I think that the marketing and the space around trying to make sure that products are safe for babies and for young children is an awareness. And that's when a lot of people and consumers kind of come to this knowledge. And I was thinking to myself, when my patients started asking me about infertility and egg quality and how does BPA impact your eggs and how do parabens impact sperm, I sort of said, why didn't I think about this when I was struggling with infertility? I had one lecture in my Stanford fellowship on BPA and egg quality, but
Mm-hmm.
this was years ago. And it's really uncomfortable, when you first start this, like you described, being so anxious that, oh my gosh, I'd used retinol on my face. It's a vitamin A. And did I mess up my baby? Did I
Right.
do something? And when I'm out there talking to OBGYNs to try to teach about this, because most people who are out there practicing did not learn about this. This is really coming from the consumer space and people sharing information with people. Most doctors say, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm talking about all these other things. And also, like, well, the evidence isn't really that strong just because they haven't, like, honestly looked. Okay. And we're just sort of in this space where people are starting to realize it, but it's overwhelming, and it's almost like climate change. It's like so upsetting that the products that you can buy in the store might not actually be safe for you, that it's hard to wrap your head around, and then you can just like want to stick your head in the sand and not do anything about it.
Right.
When I'm educating, I usually tell doctors, I'm like, well, you're already telling people to stop smoking.
Right.
You're telling people to stop having alcohol, because this is really like, it could just be a part of the handout. But it's such a tension between, like, not over scaring people, but like giving that awareness. And it's hard to kind of come to. So, what's your vision with Sorette? You had these girlfriends that were asking you questions. You wanted to find safer products. What is Sorette trying to do?
Our vision is really just to be this one-stop shop where you can find products that are vetted for this motherhood journey, whether you're trying to conceive, you're pregnant, going through your postpartum period, into your mothering years, and perhaps going back into that cycle. We just want to be this trusted source where you can find content, and educate yourself around the product selection for this period of life.
I love it. And, I have experience being on a medical advisory board for Beauty Counter, for example. They're an incredible company that is both creating safer products and also doing advocacy and education as well. But they only have a limited number of products, and you can learn. And, it's great because they have cosmetics and lotions and things like that. But your vision is to really have a lot of different products and from different brands, because there are good brands out there. So I like the idea of being able to go to the Sorette website and know that anything that I'm buying off that website or being led to or learning about, someone's already really gone through each ingredient, and I don't have to be doing it in the grocery aisle like every time I'm buying something. And so just you're kind of making that solution for someone. I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
It's just kind of it's a time in your life where there's a steep learning curve around products that you can use during your pregnancy journey, but you're just also, maybe you're going through your fertility journey and you're trying to understand like how your body works and what is an LH test strip, and all of these different tools that are out there that are really amazing, but maybe you're not targeted on Instagram or know the brand by name. So we're really serving as this platform for discovery so that you can be connected to these incredible brands that are doing amazing things for this consumer.
Yeah, I love it. And Lanning, I just want to dive a little bit deeper into kind of the problem that you are finding the solution for. Why are products that have unsafe ingredients on the market anyway? I mean, as someone who's listening right now, won't people say, well, if it was really bad, like wouldn't the FDA get it off the market? Like why does Sorette have to exist?
Yes, this was honestly something that I really struggled with understanding as well. I think, especially coming from the food space, which is a very regulated category, and then learning more about the cosmetic space through my own journey. I am a non-toxic clean beauty consumer, but even those terms are really kind of convoluted and don't necessarily mean anything. So that's where I struggled with trying to understand how those claims weren't really necessarily protecting me in this specific life stage. But really what it comes down to is that the FDA regulates around like, or restricts around like 30 ingredients compared to other standards in different countries. Like the EU is upwards of 2000. Health Canada has a really strong restricted list, as well as Japan. So there are protocols and a lot of amazing regulatory lists in place. Of course, California Prop 65. Washington State has a really tight list of regulated chemicals. So does Vermont. So essentially what we've done is aggregated all of these lists as it pertains to human health, most specifically reproductive and developmental health, so that we have a really kind of strong sense of restricted ingredients and then also prohibited ingredients for personal care products.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain to people how the FDA is really, their hands are really tied when it comes to products that you put on your body, like that you're not eating or ingesting. They can realize that talc powder actually has a lot of asbestos in it, and Johnson & Johnson's baby powder was found to be associated with ovarian cancer after decades of use.
Mm-hmm.
But yet Johnson & Johnson was able to fight any sort of regulation for years and years and years. It's an incredible story, and there's a really wonderful podcast series episode on it called Verified. My high school friend did it. It's an excellent investigation. I will put a link in the show notes so you can really hear this story. But the power that businesses lobbying have over FDA and regulation in the United States is totally different from other countries. To truly understand how limited the FDA is, I think that's a great resource to kind of listen to, and I'll make sure that that resource is there. Most people give pushback on, well, in my product, yes, there is formaldehyde. And yes, formaldehyde is associated with cancer, but only at really high doses. So what's in my lotion or my nail polish is not enough to cause any harm. That you'll often hear people argue the poison is in the dose. And my kind of rebuttal to that is, do you even realize how many products, especially women, put on their body every single day? So if there's a little bit of formaldehyde in your mascara and your nail polish and your body lotion and the laundry detergent that you use, like who's keeping track of the cumulative
Right.
impact of this? And I really want to be very careful about coming on too strong and, coming at people with fear in this. And I like how Sorette is really helping to sort of educate and kind of find better products. You cannot eliminate everything.
Totally.
Like, let's just get that straight. But there's wonderful evidence that if you just decrease your exposure a little bit and have a couple more safer products, you can absolutely make a difference to your overall exposure. We're going to get back to talking to Lanning and all about finding safer products in just a minute, but I want to remind you just how important it is to review the show. Wherever you're listening right now, make sure you follow the show so you get our weekly episodes. Like the show and review it. It really helps people find us and helps spread the word about the importance of fertility and all things reproductive health. Here is a most recent review from this month on Apple Podcasts by Alex, titled Not Just for Moms. And Alex says, as a father and husband of someone who's gone through the IVF process, Dr. Shahine's show has helped me be a better partner to my wife. Oh, so beautiful. As she has navigated this world and has given me a more nuanced appreciation for the struggles that the infertility community goes through. Kudos to an incredible show, Dr. Shahine. I encourage everyone to listen. That means so much to me, Alex. Thank you for taking the time for that lovely review. And it means so much to me that it's helping you. Again, follow the show, rate and review us. And now let's get back to talking to Lanning. I appreciate all the work that you're doing to make it easier. How do you find products that you feel comfortable aligning with and showcasing?
What's really cool about this space right now is there's a lot of brands who are actually building products specifically for this customer. I think a lot of people understand this problem that's out there and they want to create the solution through a brand and product. So we have both products that are built for this woman in her mothering years, and then bigger beauty brands actually are looking to position their products to this consumer as well, because this is a point in someone's life where they're really evaluating what they're eating and the stress level that their body is taking on, and how much they're exercising and what they're putting in and on their body. So lotions and makeup and candles in their house. They're really trying to clean up their lifestyle, whether they're in that trying to conceive period or recently found out they're pregnant. I think that's what's really, really unique about this life stage, is that it's a very kind of triggering moment in which you're really looking at everything that you're consuming, both in and on your body and surrounding with yourself in your home. So it's been a mix of both inbound brands who are really excited about what we're building, and then also outreaching to brands that I think would fit the bill, and knowing which chemicals that we prohibit, being able to isolate brands that I think would be a really good fit. And we want to serve as this discovery platform, but we also want to be able to meet people where they are. So we don't necessarily fall on one side of the scale or the other. We have both beautiful plant-based products like Lanning and bathing culture, and then we also have very efficacious science, rooted in science, clinically backed products like Dr. Rogers and the Outset. So I think it's really kind of a nice mix of brands. So whether you are someone who prefers one or the other, there's something for everyone on Sorette.
Can you teach the listeners what really makes the difference? Some people could say, well, I'm just going to go to the store, and if it says clean or natural on the box, then I'm sure that that's fine. And I don't really need to go to Sorette to figure this out. I can just read the box. So what are these words on the front of the box? What do they actually mean?
Yeah, so unfortunately, they don't necessarily mean anything. It's really up to the brand to back up, what they're claiming on the front of the package. So natural, for instance, is Dr. Heather Rogers talks about this in one of her Instagram reels and talks about the origin of that claim. But basically, natural foods really kind of kickstarted that, and then the beauty category took over that phrase, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. It could just be one ingredient, and the mix of ingredients is a naturally derived ingredient. So unfortunately, those claims don't necessarily mean anything. It's really these third-party certifications that you can look out for, like a USDA organic, for instance. Any sort of like vetting platform like an EWG or Made Safe is a really great option to look for. Sorette approved is a really great option to look for. And yes, the greenwashing is definitely real. I've fallen for it many times.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of part of the reason for building this is I just think it's really hard to navigate the landscape right now. And we need trusted sources out there.
Exactly. I mean, I don't mean to be cynical, but I really quite am, because you said greenwashing. That's really important to understand what that is, because I think people have been so inundated with the word clean that clean has now become like a dirty word. People are like, oh, you can't really trust that on a label because there's no like certification, like there's no meaning to that word. And so then people are just like, all right, forget it. I'm just like not even going to worry about my products because I can't find what's safe or not safe. This greenwashing is this sort of way that a lot of companies have really elevated their marketing to get products into consumers' hands by using these trigger words that make us feel good. Clean doesn't mean anything. Natural doesn't mean anything. Organic on a label of a makeup doesn't mean anything. So you've been in the food space, like USA certified organic,
Right.
that actually means something in a food,
Mm-hmm.
but on a laundry detergent, honestly, it doesn't mean anything, and they can't actually use that USA certified, but they'll say organic, and it just means nothing.
Right.
And that's so frustrating, as a consumer who's trying to learn and trying to figure this out. Oh, and then talk about, how ingredients can be hidden.
Oh my gosh.
How does that work?
I think that the two most enlightening pieces of information that I've learned over this past year building Sorette was the hidden ingredients and then also the synonyms that are in these formulations. So fragrance is a really great example of one of these black box ingredients. So a brand doesn't necessarily need to disclaim all of the chemicals that are in their fragrance formulation per se. They can just state the word fragrance or perfume, which is why a lot of people recommend just avoiding that entirely when you see it on a product label, because the average consumer, you can't necessarily ask the brand to disclose it to you because it can be called a trade secret. So they don't have to disclose it to you. What's really unique about Sorette and how we approach this is that we require absolute transparency around fragrance. So any product that has the fragrance or perfume listed on their ingredient statement, they have to be telling us exactly what's in that formulation so that we can then cross-reference it to our no-go list to ensure that there's no, phthalates or parabens hiding in there, and so that we can provide you with that sense of peace of mind and confidence buying that product, knowing that it's already been disclosed. And the other piece that's really, really interesting to me was the fact that, and this is very different than the food space, one ingredient chemical name could be listed as 20 other synonyms on an ingredient statement. So, you might know the word paraben, but it could be listed as like a whole multitude of other synonyms on someone's ingredient or formulation, which was really very confusing to navigate, but also just shocking that that's how it works. It's not as clear cut as wheat or corn.
No, I know. It's quite honestly, it's a game. It's a, cat and mouse game. There's over 80,000 chemicals that have been brought to the market in household products in the last like 20 years. And they do not have to be tested for safety in humans before it's brought to market.
Right,
I mean,
right,
it's just absolutely amazing.
right.
And that's just the world that we live in. And the burden is on the consumer. And so then if that's the case, then the consumers have to take responsibility and buy things that are safer. That's the only way things are going to change. So in Europe, like you said, they have much more regulation over, 2,000 ingredients that are not allowed to be sold in products. If you look at the ingredients for a sunscreen or a lotion that you buy in the airport in Paris or London, and you come home and the exact same thing in the US, it is different
Totally.
ingredients.
Yeah.
Totally. And why do they get away with it? Because there's lack of regulation in the United States, and the chemicals they're using in the United States are less expensive. So it's a better price point,
Yeah,
and more
that's
profit. Like, it's just, I get it. That's the way business is. And so, we have to basically advocate for transparency. I love that you talked about that. That is so true. But also, we have to kind of fight back with our pocketbooks, right? Like,
yeah.
if we're buying things that are truly being transparent, then the industry is going to pay attention and be like, okay, like, people do actually care. And another really tense part about this whole thing is the price point. So the companies really have taken advantage of the fact that people want safer products. They're using this greenwashing, and sometimes they're upping the prices on things that are not actually safer.
Mhm.
And it's really frustrating for people that are trying to do well, or people saying, like, I can't afford to have this, like, better brand. Are you guys thinking about price points when you're also aligning with brands? Because something doesn't have to be expensive in order to be safe.
Right, 100%. We want to be expanding our assortment of brands and collection across categories at an accessible price point wherever you might fall on the scale. So that's definitely a goal of ours, is to have a face wash that's suitable for someone who wants to spend $20 on a face wash, or if you're looking for a more a premium higher end experience, we have something for you too. We want to really, meet people where they are, and make it accessible for anyone who wants to purchase a better option.
So just congratulations on this vision and actually bringing Sorette up. Like, the website's up. We've got some incredible products. I love that you have Dr. Rogers products on there. She is my dermatologist here in Seattle. I'm so lucky to have her. But those products that she makes they really are safer products, and they are so high quality and incredible for your skin. So you guys check out Dr. Rogers Restore on Sorette. How many brands are you working with now?
We have 10 brands right now. This is our initial capsule collection. We have
Awesome.
quite the wait list of brands that we're looking to onboard. We're going to be bringing on Cora Organics next week. And then, yeah, like you said, Dr. Rogers is definitely a fan favorite. I'm already seeing on the back end. Another amazing product that I've really been loving is Linnae, which is a beautiful botanical plant-based product line. She's actually, the founder is a botanist. She started
Mm.
creating this product for her family. Her dad is a surgeon, was breaking out from wearing a surgical mask, and so she basically created a solution for him,
Hmm.
and then started building out this wonderful line of products. Their repair face oil is, I am a big fan of face oils. I love the feeling of hydrated skin and just the glow that it gives you. And their repair face oil is a super luxurious, beautiful product. And then
Awesome.
we have another brand called Kinfield, who just, the season of life we're in right now, heading into summer, has a great line of mineral sunscreens. They have a really beautiful tinted sun glow sunscreen that's really nice. And they also have really great safer products for being outside. So they have like bug spray and mosquito bug bite patches, and just something to check out as you're planning your summer vacations.
Ah, that is fantastic. So I want to leave the listeners with kind of 3 action items that they could start today, because they can't get all of their products at Sorette yet. I know that's the vision. But what are 3 action items that people could do today, just if they wanted to sort of start this process and find safer products?
So I think the first one would be to shop at a vetted store like Sorette, who does all the work for you and basically just provides you with the products that are kind of curated for you. So Sorette, Credo is another great one. Honestly, Whole Foods, they have a restricted list as well. And then looking for some sort of third-party certification. I said that before, but something like an EWG or Made Safe is a really great place to start. They have a pretty strict policy in place. And then lastly, I would say using one of the apps that are out there, like a Think Dirty or a Yuka, so you can scan the ingredients and just better understand, because like I said, these chemicals are so confusing to the average person like myself, and they just make it a little bit easier to place these ingredients in a bucket of a hazard level. So yeah, those are the 3 tips I would say.
That's great. Yeah. And then one thing is, I have the Think Dirty app on my phone and I have the EWG app on my phone. And what do you tell people when you get kind of two different readings? Because Think Dirty might say, this is a great product, okay to use. And EWG will say, oh, there's this one ingredient that's been associated with this. How do you reconcile when the apps are telling you different things?
Yeah, I think they both have pretty transparent reasoning behind it. So I think you just have to dig into the why. So they might have a specific pillar that they really value. Maybe it's like this ingredient is potentially hazardous to the environment. So they, are making it a different number on the scale than another app. That's the kind of the thing with these third-party certifications and just private entities in general, is that everyone has their own standards in place. So you really have to understand the standards and where they're aggregating all of this data from in order to make that call. And then basically just aligning with whatever platform resonates with you and your goals and beliefs and values.
Yeah, I think it's an important point that every place that's trying to give third-party input is going to have different standards. And so people will find that at Sorette too. But what makes you guys different is you're really transparent on your website about your goals, exactly what you're looking for, and like how products get to your website. It's that education piece and that transparency that is going to help people trust Sorette, which is the whole goal. You want to make it easier for people.
Right.
And that if there's a product on there that they feel confident using it. And that's just such a gift and such a crazy, confusing marketplace. So thank you, Lanning, for your vision and for everything that you're doing. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
I hope you enjoyed this discussion with Lanning. I know it can be so overwhelming to really learn about products and ingredients. And, Sorette is trying to answer this problem. They're trying to do that work for you. And I'm just so excited that people are doing this work. And I really hope you're taking away some valuable tips today. Find this episode and all others on my website, drlorashahine.com. You can find it on YouTube along with some more educational material. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I just love teaching. Be sure and send us an email to hello@drlorashahine.com for ideas, people you want us to interview. Thank you to our friends at Seattle Sperm Bank and Braze Run Production for sponsoring the show. Thank you to my producer, Shannon Perry, and her team at Audiotocracy. This is your host, Dr. Lora Shahine. See you next week. And until then, wishing you love, luck, and pineapples.